Hi everyone, welcome to another watercolor video. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite colors, and that is Cerulean Blue Chromium, and this is from the brand Daniel Smith. Daniel Smith makes two types of cerulean blue. One is called cerulean blue with a pigment code of PB35. This is cerulean blue chromium. This is PB36. On Daniel Smith's website, for the original cerulean blue PB35, it says that it's a cleaner, brighter, and slightly warmer version compared to the cerulean blue chromium version. Unfortunately, I do not have the original cerulean blue, so I cannot do any sort of comparison today. But I'm going to get the original and make a comparison video in the future. So let's take a look at the page for cerulean blue chromium. So it says here that it's inorganic, it's highly granulating, medium light in value. I'm going to create some color swatches later on to show you those beautiful colors and show you some mixtures as well. Let me show you some sketches that I have painted with cerulean blue chromium. So this area here, the sky, I painted with cerulean blue chromium. This is very beautiful granulation. And the granulation pattern is quite obvious. Let me flip over to the previous page to show you ultramarine. You see ultramarine, the granulation, it's quite fine, but cerulean blue, it's more textured. For this sketch, I used cerulean blue chromium mixed with a little bit of red to create the shadows. Cerulean blue chromium doesn't mix completely with other colors, and this results in very interesting washes where you can see individual colors that are used to create that wash. For example, here you can see that there is blue and there is red, and it seems that the blue likes to settle in the middle of the wash, and we have this red edge here. This is also cerulean blue. This blue is a very beautiful blue for painting skies. By the way, if you want to learn how I drew and painted these sketches, there is an online tutorial course that I have made available for sale on my Gumroad page. You just have to visit the link in the video description below. Alright, this sketchbook, by the way, is the Stillman and Burn Delta series sketchbook. Let's get started with painting some color swatches. The paper that I'm using today is a cold press watercolor paper made by Winsor & Newton. You can see the texture on the paper. Let me add some water to show you how it looks like when it's diluted. The texture of the paper does have an effect on the granulation pattern. So this is cold press paper, and this is the paper on my sketchbook, which is a bit smoother. Can you see the difference between the granulation pattern? One of my favorite mixtures with this color is to mix it with a red to get purples. So this is mixed with quinacridone red. Pay attention to how the colors are not mixing totally together. It's going to be very beautiful when it dries because the colors, they don't mix completely together. And next I'm going to mix some cerulean blue chromium with quinacridone magenta. So this is with quinacridone magenta. Let me add a bit more blue to it. And a bit more magenta to it. The difference between quinacridone red and magenta is not that obvious. Let's see what you can get when you mix a blue like cerulean blue chromium with a warm red. You can see the mixture is quite dirty. The purple or the violet is very subdued. We will take a look at those colors when they dry properly later. And now I'm going to mix lemon yellow with cerulean blue. Let's do a wet on wet mix here. We have a bright yellow green that is also granulating. When I add more pigment, it looks like this. Can you see the granulation in the green? So this is how this green compares to sap green. And now I'm going to mix with new gumbosh, which is an orange. So this is a rather muted green. This is a wash of quinacridone deep gold. So let's try some wet on wet with this. Here's a close-up. See how the blue has spread out from the center. And now I'm going to mix burnt sienna with cerulean blue chromium. So this mixture can produce a nice gray tone. Let's compare this with the ultramarine mix with burnt sienna. So this is burnt sienna, and let's mix this with ultramarine. The swatches are almost dry, so this is how the colors look like when they are dry. So cerulean blue is actually a color that I can use very easily straight out from the tube, especially when painting skies. So for skies like this is straight out from the tube and it looks quite nice. It's not too glaring, unlike phthalo blue. With cerulean blue chromium, you can mix very beautiful purples and violets. This effect here is the main reason why I love this color, and that's the inability for the color to mix completely with other colors. So you can always see the individual colors showing up in the wash. Here you can see blue, you can see the quinacridone red, and here as well. Let's move on to this. This is how it looks like when the blue is mixed with a warm red. The purple, it's a bit muted, it's a bit dull compared to the purple here, which is more vibrant, but you can still see the beautiful granulation within the wash. Now if you add a lot of red and a lot of cerulean blue chromium, this is what you will get. It's almost black, but it's not true black. It's a bit chalky though. If you want a green with some texture, you can use cerulean blue chromium and mix it with another yellow. So this is the type of texture you can get. If you mix French ultramarine with yellow, the blue will be a bit muted. This is a brighter green, a more vibrant green in my opinion. And this is what you get when you mix with new gumbosh. Earlier I painted across the wet wash, and this is how the blue spreads out. You can see here the texture, it's finer. Here there is more texture, and here it's finer. Let's move on to quinacridone deep gold. So this is what you can get. It's a very dark and muted green. This is almost brown color. Perhaps it can be good for painting tree trunks. branches. Here's a comparison of gray tones that I can get with burnt sienna. So this is burnt sienna with cerulean blue chromium. Notice the texture here, this is so strong. And this is with French ultramarine. The granulation here, it's finer. And you can see the blue here versus the blue here. When I mix grays with burnt sienna, sometimes I like to add a little bit of cool red, magenta, or even a warm red, just to give it that extra variety, so that the gray wash will have a slight tint of red, something like this, and a slight tint of purple. So this is why I love cerulean blue chromium. It is a very beautiful color on its own, and it's a wonderful color for mixing with other colors. You can get pretty purples, violets, even with a red. It's supposed to be a very muted purple, a dark dirty purple, but here the red actually still shines through. And when mixed with yellow, you get a bright yellow green. And if you want textural greens, this is how you can do it. And it's very nice for mixing gray tones as well. If you want a muted green, you can use a warmer yellow or a very dark brown. Let me show you some other sketches that I have painted with cerulean blue chromium. So I usually use this color to paint skies. This is hot press paper. So the pattern here, it's a bit random compared to that on cold press, because sometimes you can see the grain pattern of the paper, but here it's very smooth paper, so the paint, the pigment, it will just spread out randomly. The sky here is mixed with burnt sienna with a slight touch of burnt sienna. Let's check out the shadow areas here. So this is how it looks like when you use the grays to paint shadows. For this statue, I added some yellow to the cerulean blue chromium to make this a bit greenish. And for the shadow areas, there is more of the blue, so that this is darker and has more texture. For this shadow area, I glazed over this color, so you can see some texture, some granulation pattern from the blue. And here, this is mixed with a little bit of burnt sienna and some of this red to get that slight purplish gray tone. You can see some texture in it as well. It's those little variations in the wash that makes this wash more interesting. Here you can see more of the granulation. And this is how the whole sketch looks like. One of the things that I noticed with this tube of paint is the binder, the gum arabic binder, it separates itself too easily from the pigment. Maybe because the pigment is so dense, that's why it separates itself so easily. When I store this tube away for 1 month and I take it out just to replace my colors, when I squeeze out, the binder always comes out first. Maybe because the pigment settles to the bottom, the binder rises to the top. One important thing to note about this paint is when you squeeze this out from the tube into a pan like this, make sure you dry the pan properly, dry it thoroughly, because this paint is quite soft. If this is not dry, if only the surface is dry and you just close it and you put it in your bag like this, the paint is going to flow out from the pan because the surface is dry, but underneath the surface it's still very wet and still very runny, so it's going to run out from the pan. It happened to me a few times because I forgot to dry the pan properly. So how can you dry this properly? Well, you just have to close your watercolor box and put it out in the sun and just let the box heat up. It should dry quite nicely in a day or two. So that's all for today's video. I hope this is helpful or interesting in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to scan these color swatches and post it on my blog so that if you are interested, you can check them out in higher resolution. And that's all. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye!